You've had your own journey, and on this forum, you've sometimes shared it. You've been a friend of this festival. We thank you for coming back in its 3rd edition. You've had your own journey, your own tryst with this big thing called masculinity and all the stereotypes that come with it, all the pressures that come on men. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so,
Just.
yeah. Hi, good morning. So when I spoke to Barkha backstage and I read the topic, it's 10 things that men should change about themselves or about Bollywood, I was like, why just Bollywood? Why generalize it? You know, of course, there are certain things that men in Bollywood must change about themselves, but there are men in general that need to change so much about themselves. I know the last time I was here, Barkha, we spoke about the myths of masculinity, and we addressed those, and that was an interesting cathartic conversation for me, because there were things that have bothered me right through my childhood and, you know, the myths that have surrounded me. At this point of time, when we speak about men, I think the very first thing that men in general need to really change, I think, is their fake sense of women empowerment.
Explain that.
So I think it's definitely, for very many, it's a true revolution and it's a true feeling. For me, I've grown up with the strongest women, so I feel it very strongly. But for very many men, I notice that it's a kind of a fashionable thing to talk about women empowerment, but not really feel it, because their inherent sense of entitlement hasn't left them. They're saying the right things, they're making the right noises, but do they really feel that women need to be empowered? I don't think so. Not all of them. So I think that's what they firstly need to change. So it's become the catchphrase of the time. I think it is like, you know, they'll support a movement, they'll say the right things, they'll make the right noises, give the right quotes at the right moments, at the right events. But it comes from within. That feeling from within needs to come in first. So if that's, I'm not asking for a drastic and immediate change, but even if they can change it gradually, drastic would be great, because that would sort out so many problems. But even a gradual change is a change in itself.
You know, popular culture shapes us all in so many ways, in ways that we don't even understand. And you've had your own journey with this. You are, for example, somebody who had what we call item numbers in your films, and many years later, when you were more reflective, and we all change, we all evolve. I think even women, we all embrace so many sexist things till we actually think about them and we say, oh, really? We were doing that? Why were we doing it? How did this journey happen for you? How did you reach a point where you looked back at your own cinema and you said, you know what? I thought that was romantic, but that's actually stalking. I thought that was sexual, but that's actually objectification.
Yeah,
I want you to share that journey.
I mean, it really happened and evolved over time. When I was young and I was a huge fan of popular Indian mainstream cinema, there were things that you watched that you found, like you said, romantic. There were things that I've danced in my own bedroom, closed my door and danced to songs on my own, thinking I was having fun.
Which was your favorite song?
Well, many of them, or most of Helen's songs I've danced to on my own. And I thought like I was being very, 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 very fun in my own inner space. It's when later on you realize there are implications of how you project women on celluloid and what the ramifications of that can be. When it hits your subconscious, when you kind of hear things, when people have, I've been at various events and heard many conferences, had women speak about the result of it, have had friends who've had such strong opinions that have actually, you know, modified my own mental makeup. When that has happened, you realize as a filmmaker how responsible you must be. So I took a conscious decision and said, there's certain things I will not do now, because I feel the communication is wrong. Right now, our antennas are much more raised when you're writing a film, when you're producing a film, when there are scenes in movies. You cannot do certain things. Of course, you know, there will still be some slips, you know, because sometimes, you know, you've grown up in a certain way, you've been told certain things.
I mean, sometimes really sexist, horrible films do really well. They're huge box office successes. And how do we explain that contradiction? Because none of us believe, for example, in censorship. I'm a free speech, pretty much absolutist. I believe that even prejudices sometimes are latent and they get this expression, but I'm disturbed. I'm disturbed that really sexist films, and we've seen a spate of them recently do well.
And I know exactly what you mean. And there are films that have worked and have been appreciated, been applauded, you know, that have received huge box office success. And on a certain level, when you're told about it, it disturbs you that you didn't think of those things while viewing it or watching it. And those experiences have happened with me as well. And I must admit that at many times when people have reflected back and told me things, I was like, I didn't think of it. And then you start questioning your own inherent DNA. But all you can do is evolve, Barkha. All you can do is kind kind of acknowledge where you perhaps have been wrong, perhaps where you kind of made mistakes and faults, and you kind of acknowledge what's wrong first, and then try and improve yourself. Because I think men in general, there is so much that they need to do about, the way they think and the way they operate.
So explain the paradox that is Karan Johar, because one part of Karan Johar is deeply unconventional. You're a single father to wonderful babies. You have, you projected a sort of alternative sexuality or the gay character on cinema well before mainstream cinema did. We can have another debate about why you felt the need to caricature it at first and then you changed the representation. And then there is Karan Johar, the sort of conventional blockbuster, some would say even socially conservative filmmaker. Who is Karan Johar? Are you a paradox?
A Gemini. You get two for the price of one.
No, but seriously, how do you wrestle with your own contradictions?
Well, I do because, as I said, my entire journey has been a process of evolution, and I feel today I'm at my most evolved self. Like, I think that most of the films that I'm even producing now, there will be, I've always said that, art is, for me, art is not just art, there's also commerce attached to it. I'm here for the business as well and for the art. And I've never said that I'm only here to project art and I'm an art. I care about the box office numbers of my films because that's what I'm here for as well. So there will be content and genres that I will choose that will be, of course, commercially driven. But there are those films, and I feel I get very little credit for those. I've tried to push the envelope. When you talk about sexuality, yes, I addressed it in a caricaturish way, but I at least made it. But I made it in Dostana. But no, but we also made it, we also made a dining room discussion for the very first time. Like, there were people who talked about gay in cinema in 2000. I had actually tapped on it in 2003 in Kalhonaho. There was a track, the Kantaben track, that actually addressed sexuality for the first time in a big mainstream cinema with mainstream stars. It was further enhanced in 2008 with Dostana. We brought the conversation. Then I directed a short for Bombay Talkies, the anthology that I do with 3 other directors, where we talked about it in a more serious way. And then in Kapoor and Sons, which was addressed in a solid way. So, of course, the process of homosexuality at Dharma Productions on cinema has evolved, but it was always there. We had put it out. And I'm proud of the fact that we put out that content in the mainstream. And now you can actually there's legit content where there are films being made. There's a Shubh Mangal Zyada Savdhan being made, a Dostana 2, which will have accurate representation of sexuality on screen without any cringe-worthy depiction.
Why did you feel the need to bring it in as a Kantaben caricature?
It had to be, at that point of time, we were a different society. We were a different way of thinking. And it had to be cradled with humor for it to resonate at all. Because had I just put it out there seriously, I don't think that it would have struck the right chord. Finally, it had to be, first you have to build awareness in a society that is actually talking to you. I've had people actually even, I had an uncle once who came and asked me, "Ke gay log karte kya hai?" They look, and I didn't know what to say.
So what did you say?
And I had a lady right now who I met backstage who whispered in my ear and said, "I went with 3 gay people for a holiday." She said it to me as a secret. It's ridiculous.
And what did you say?
I smiled. I said, "Good for you." What else do I say? So I'm like, at the end of the day, there is such lack of awareness. We still think that, there's internet and media and there's social media and everybody knows what's happening. There is still a whole world out there that doesn't understand it, leave alone accept it. The first thing you need to do is put it out there, which is what I did way back in 2003, to now, of course, with everything happening around us, there is much more awareness. And maybe in a tiny way, the cinema, the art forms that have put out sexuality have contributed to that awareness.
And when you look back, for example, at item numbers that you thought were perfectly legitimate in your films earlier, what do you feel watching them today?
I feel like that I didn't think of the right thing at that point of time. I didn't think that there were going to be repercussions and ramifications, which I believe cinema is such an impressionable medium, which it has been. It's just those things that you don't think of. And then when you're told and you realize that they're true, you have to apologize to the society that, you've possibly scarred as a result of what you put out there. And I cannot take back those songs that I actually have put out there in cinema that have objectified women, because it's out there in the archives of cinema history. But I can say for a fact that I will not do it again. And I've said it on this platform and in several others, that I would think twice before I did anything of that nature and put it out there, because I'm deeply affected by the ramifications of what I've done.
And before I open this up for questions, talk a little bit about your own personal journey in getting comfortable with yourself. Like, you said that today I'm the most evolved that I've ever been. relative. Tomorrow, 4 years from now, you may feel later, you're at peace with yourself. But you were that young boy who danced to Helen's songs, who was mocked, who was made fun of. You were that man who went through depression and went to see a counselor for it. And you found it difficult actually to figure out who you were, because there is also a pressure on men to be a certain way, just as there is a pressure on women to be a certain way.
So I think I always knew who I was. I don't think I ever lied to myself. But I felt like many others fall into the log kya kahenge syndrome, you know, which is worrying about what other people around you, sometimes your own close and loved ones, what they will think you, whether they'll judge you, whether they will deal with you differently once they know the truth about you. I've had to go through that entire journey till you reach a point of time where you have to actually just believe in yourself, project who you really are, and not apologize for who you are. And I think at a very late stage in my life, I had that sense of inner acknowledgement. And that's when I realized that I want to be a single parent, and I want to walk proudly with my 2 children everywhere in this country and not feel unloved. And I don't want my children to feel unloved anymore, because I feel that we have enough love in our hearts, in our family, to give them. And they don't need to be driven by judgment around us. And I don't want to sound, I don't want to sound defiant by saying I don't care, because we all do. We all care what surrounds us. But I want to say that I want to be indifferent to any kind of bias or judgment that may surround me, that may be around me. And I want to kind of be oblivious and be almost humored by people who might have an opinion on me and what I am all about.
Have you reached that point of indifference?
Yes, total inner freedom. Total freedom. Freedom of self, freedom of expression, freedom of just who I am and who I want to be and where I want to be with. Like, and I don't want to walk around and feeling like I should care about what I am. Like, I've been told at junctures, you're a filmmaker, you know, you should be a certain way, and I don't want to be told who I want to be. I want to wear the clothes I want to wear. I want to pout on Instagram if I want to. If I want to do what I want to in my personal life, I will do it.
Toodles.
I want to say anything. I want to do what I want to, because I still want to be relevant in the mainstream and do it my way.
What is the most hurtful thing about your getting to this point of being at peace with yourself? Along the way, there would have been bumps.
I mean, it's just people, Barkha.
What is the cruelest thing that's been said to you?
I mean, there's so much. Go scroll down any one of my posts and just read some of the things people say.
Share it here.
I mean, they've said I've woken up to like abuse about my sexuality every morning. I've had people kind of, you know, say things that on social media that could make anyone really want to kind of just go back into their bed and never get out of there. But I have never really allowed it to kind of ever bring me down. When I went through a phase of anxiety and depression for about 2.5 years, I realized it was actually a build-up of everything that I was holding within that finally exploded into a mental health situation. And I realized all that counseling, speaking about it, and just expressing myself really helped. And I advise all those who sometimes feel that they must shy away from actually seeking help, that they must not do that, because sometimes speaking to a stranger who actually a therapist or psychoanalyst or psychiatrist it can be, sometimes is very, 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 very liberating. And
so
I
you
think
did go and get help for
Yes,
yourself.
I got that help, and I think I went through the journey, and now I'm at the most amazing phase of my life because in my head I'm liberated, and I think that's the
So the
way
liberated man. What is that creature? That's something I want to ask Karan about. I'm going to take a few questions. We have Karan here for about 10 minutes. Get the young lady in the 4th row here. But Karan, I want to ask you, what or who is the liberated man? If you had to define who's a liberated man, we have some definitions for an empowered woman. Who is a liberated man? What is a liberated man?
A liberated man is a man who understands the power of a woman, actually. I mean, I always believe that. I believe that you can't be liberated till you don't acknowledge what's stronger than you.
Okay, go ahead with your question.
Hi, sir. My name is Ritti.
Hi.
Speak into the mic.
Hello.
Yeah, speak.
Now that we're talking about change, and we've had some nerve-wracking stories before by the speakers before you, I just want to say how important it is for fathers. You celebrate fatherhood in a pretty amazing way. We miss your 2-day series. How important it is for a father to communicate with their sons, to teach them the right lessons, to make them secure in their own skin, so much so that they don't have to be this macho person out there and show every person that they're a man.
Okay.
So thank you for that question, and I think it's relevant to what I'm going through right now, even at home as we speak. So it's the things that we say around our children that need to start changing. we don't realize it, but we say things like "don't cry like a girl" to a boy.
And has that been said to you growing up?
Yes.
And
a lot of times.
would you cry a lot?
I used to cry a lot. I still do. And I don't want to be told, "Oh, what do you mean don't cry like a girl? Be a man and be a man." What is be a man? Like, what are these statements we say? We say these things. If a boy has to cry, he must cry. If a girl has to cry, she must cry. Why do you need to kind of gender it at all? You know, they must cry. Human beings cry. We're meant to weep. We're meant to express our emotions through tears. It's okay. But don't tell a boy don't cry like a girl, because it will scar him when he grows up.
So have you been mindful of this with your kids?
Yes, and there have been help sometimes who says, "Oh, no, Yash, don't, that pink sweater is not yours. That's Ruhi's." No, he can wear pink. Why should he not wear pink? It's a color. It's a color, for crying out loud. Why should the girls be wearing pink and not the boy? I mean, it's okay. When presents come out, you know, when presents at birthdays and the Barbie doll, if he wants to play with a Barbie doll, let him play with a Barbie doll. It does not matter.
I mean, my view is no one should play with a Barbie doll.
And why should, like, the boy be told?
Why should anyone play with a Barbie doll?
No, that is okay. That is, I mean, who would you like them to play with then? I mean, eventually there are
like
dolls.
Trains, planes.
No, it's okay. See, I'm
things
just
that
saying,
you make,
there
books.
there are dolls and there are cars,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean that the cars are for the boys and the
Yeah,
dolls are for the girls.
Of course, I
These
take your
There are
point.
little things that we have to start saying, like, you know, to our kids that actually resonate very deeply within them when they grow up. And if you raise them in an environment where things are said in a sense, with a sense of liberation, they will grow up as evolved individuals. And I think that's our biggest endeavor as parents, is to kind of raise them like that.
Let me take another question. Third row, pink t-shirt. Yeah, stand.
Hi Karan, hi Barkha. So my question to you, Karan, is...
Hold the mic closer. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. As a plus-size woman growing up, I never saw us represented in movies. The heroine or the main character is always size 0. And in reality, the average Indian size is size 12. And the plus-size character represented are cringeworthy most of the time, and you have to agree with me. Do you think it's time to be a little more inclusive?
I think so. And firstly, I think you're gorgeous. So never let anybody else tell you otherwise. And I want to tell you, I was a major plus size. I still am. I'm big. But like when I grew up, you know, I went through this whole anxiety of fitting in, you know, and looking, especially when I went into college. I remember the first time it hit me is when I wore colored clothes in college. See, when you're in a uniform, you kind of blend in. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what your size is in school. When you hit college and you have to wear colored clothes, is when you say, oh my God, like, you know, I look different from the others. And you are right, there is so much focus on glamour and weight and, you know, how slim you are and the clothes you wear. It drives many people crazy. It gives them a sense of anxiety that they don't need, you know. Yeah. And I think that there used to be women in the 60s and 70s that were voluptuous and beautiful and not looking at, you know, body. There were no such thing as gymnasiums at that time, you know. Because I think there's so much focus on forms of exercise. Every 2 days I'm told a new way to kind of lose that weight and a new diet, you know, to be on. And I'm like, you know, I wish the world would change like you. I wish, and I would be so happy.
Do men also have body image issues?
Oh my God, men have more body image issues than women do.
Do you have body image issues?
Always, I live with them. I mean, I'm only hiding it all the time. I mean, I think I'm a victim of what the circumstance. I mean, I'm only finding ways and means to kind of hide the bumps that are there on this highway. So, I mean, like, I do it all the time. And I'm like, I'm fed up. I'm like, will someone start exercising their souls, please, and just not focus on their bodies? And I wish there was protein shake for the soul. Because I really think, I really believe that there should be women and men out there who don't need to conform to the gym body. You know, who don't need to look like, you know, they have that six-pack is not sexy anymore. I just want all the men out there to know.
It never was sexy. You all just thought it was.
No, at one point I thought it was sexy. I don't think it's sexy anymore. It looks like they're reptilian now. You know?
Okay, next question. Okay, can you pass this mic here? Yes, please stand. Yeah.
Hi Barkha, hi Karan.
Hi.
Karan, firstly to acknowledge the fact that you and a lot of people in the industry like you are busting all the myths about masculinity, and a lot of men do not have the guts to accept that. A lot of people who still think that wearing a floral shirt, wearing a colored shirt, applying a little concealer is at the cost of their masculinity, and I think it has a lot to do with you people in the industry who teach us and make us feel comfortable about who we are. And a question would be this, that how do you think that you being in the film industry, in the fashion glamour industry, it's easier for you to dress in a certain way, pout and say toodles on screen, but people who are in the corporate world, who are into banking jobs or say are consultants outside, how do the
Basically, you
men
want to wear concealer, Karan's clothes and say toodles.
I do. Yeah. It's not about being Karan Johar. It's about a lot being trying to be me, and sometimes you get questioned and you're not
Are you
taken
in a
seriously.
corporate? Are you in a corporate
I'm
job?
in a corporate job.
Were you? Okay. And today was your day out wearing a kind of a printed shirt.
No,
You
I
feel
do it in
liberated?
the office, but sometimes it's at the cost of people taking me
Listen,
seriously.
I don't know how to answer this question because even in my own office, there's only one person who's the CEO of my company who has a corporate attire on a daily basis. Every one of I come wearing the clothes I do wear to my office, and I've never had to think otherwise. So I feel really terrible if you're the person who wants to be in a certain way, dress in a certain sense, but you have to wear that shirt, pant, trouser, like that whole silhouette because, that's how you'll be taken seriously. I mean, look at what I'm wearing. How dare you not take me seriously? I mean, it's okay. It's fine. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. And I feel like what you dress like should not determine what your inherent headspace or intellect level is.
How long do you take to get ready?
22 minutes by the clock. I'm quite fast.
22 minutes?
Yeah, I've timed it. You want to come and try
there
next time? You come and
used to be a day
time
when
it.
men used to say, we take 2 minutes, women take 22 minutes. Has that
No,
changed?
no, men take much longer. All that bronzer on that body takes 1 hour. No?
You use bronzer?
I don't. What am I showing? But the men who do show are putting bronzer.
Okay, next question. Pass it along. Pass the mic along. Yeah.
Hi.
Just tell me how much time we have because Karan has a flight. Yeah, okay.
Okay, sorry. I want to ask you, when do you think the conversation on sexuality should start as a parent to a child? Because I think a lot of the gender issues we face today is because children feel that this is how men are supposed to be and this is how women are supposed to be.
So as I said, darling, I said the conversation has to start when they're 2 years old, not with them, but around them. What you say to each other is conversation in itself. And then you will realize that when they're 6 or 7 or 8, when you have to talk about it in a more solid way, they will be more accepting to that conversation or draw from what you're saying because the environment in which you've raised them has already tuned their headspaces into that direction. So that the conversation starts even when you're not speaking to them. You're actually speaking around them. That's a conversation that you must have. It's the right things you say around your children.
Okay, ma'am, in the front row.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Karan. I'm so excited to see you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is about 10 questions that you'd want Bollywood to change.
I want. He's not agreed with all.
No, I agree with everything you
Give
say.
one suggestion, ma'am, that you
Yeah.
want him to change.
See, there is a question of Simran and Rahul. I don't know, I forgot his
Is
name.
Raj.
Raj.
Same thing, actually.
Same thing. They both were important for DDLJ, and I think you as a producer and director, are you going to fight for the same fee that the actress is going to charge?
Okay, good question. Should they have been paid the same? They both made the movie a hit. Should your female stars and your male stars basically get paid the same money? Yeah.
This question has been raised and asked to me at several platforms and junctures, and I believe that there has been a huge evolution in that process of pay parity that you're talking about. Today, there are women who are helming films, and me for myself, and you will see it in the near future. I have 2 films that I'm producing, which women as lead protagonists who deal with, they will have credit. They are part of the profit system. They get credit as producer if they ask, and they will be given their due much more than what you think that, what surrounds them or what men. Now, why compare one to the other? Because each genre is different, each specific is different. Sometimes the verticals that you get is as per the history of an artist, male or female. So it's very different.
So it depends on the movie.
It's artist to artist. It's not woman to man. It's artist to artist. It's not something you can club together. There are many women who get much more money than certain men, and there are certain men who get much more money than certain women. But it is really about the artist. It's not about just a generalization. It's no longer something that you can just plot into into a box that men and women should get.
Give me an example of a movie where the woman has earned more than the man.
I mean, there will be examples. It depends on what the casting is and depends on what the films are.
So you mean...
I mean, I don't want to give you those inner details because I don't
Convenient.
But I don't want to tell you about who's got what and where. But I'm telling you as a producer, and I can say that with a lot of strength and gravitas, that there are women that are going to be in Dharma Productions films that are getting much more than the men in the film.
Okay, good to hear. Question?
So we've seen in cinema that male actors are usually not vulnerable. They're not shown vulnerable. They're not shown dealing with mental health issues. As you have said that you have dealt with it, and how did you deal with it? Because
Question. What's your question?
Yeah, that.
Why don't we see these men in movies?
Yeah, like
Okay.
females have talked about it, but why not males?
Why don't we see these vulnerable, real, textured men in movies? Why do we continue to see men who are very difficult to like in real life in movies?
I mean, I think that even those, I do agree with you that, there have been some strong characters of women, like we produced a film called Dear Zindagi, where Alia talks, it's a film that is, but Gauri Shinde very sensitively directed about mental health issue, where she goes to Shah Rukh, who's the therapist, in the film. And I agree that there have been more characters of reality and strength that women are projected, and men always want to play many a time the stereotypical hero, the one who's like solid, right, good, always doing the right thing. But I think, again, I say in the last 5 or 7 years, there have been multiple changes. There have been men who have expressed their shades of grey, who are showing that maybe in certain alternate films, not in the mainstream. And I think the mainstream is getting there. Slowly but surely, I think we're going to express the grey areas of humanity on celluloid, and men are going to project those roles. It's happening as we speak.
Okay, I just have time for last 2 questions here. 4th row, stand up. 4th row, purple shirt. Yeah, you. Yeah.
Hello, Barkha ma'am. Hello, Karan Johar. So my question to you is that you stated that the concept of homosexuality has been evolved through the decades as you go on exploring what does take in the film industry. So what's your take on that, especially concerning the concept of homosexuality?
What's the take means? What's the question?
Like Karan Johar just stated that the concept of homosexuality.
He said the depiction, the representation has evolved.
The depiction.
What's the question?
The question is, can you just elaborate more on that?
So what I said that initially it was something that was a conversation starter. So there was a depiction of sexuality that was caricaturish, even in a cinema that I've produced. But today I would not do that. Like today I'm making a film. So the evolution is from one Dostana to the other. Dostana 1 that released in 2008 and Dostana 2 that's releasing in 2020. You will see that the representation is accurate, non-caricaturish, and on point. Talking about sexuality in a way that will not make you cringeworthy while watching it. So therein lies the fact that in the last 12 years, there has been a solid change in the way we depict gay characters, even in Kapoor and Sons, and the way it was depicted with,
I agree.
with the character.
I think this space has evolved. I do want to ask you in the end, just like you changed your mind about how stalking was depicted, how item numbers were depicted, there's a certain, there've been a spate of disturbing films recently that have been commercial successes. I think we all know what the films we're talking about. When will we get to this point where men who are obnoxious, possibly violent, will no longer be heroes of our cinema?
I think that the change has to, I feel like cinema is such an, it's very subjective to how you react to a film. And I think many a time people, when they react and love a film, not every time they're driven by the fact that they're a misogynistic person. They're reacting to a character, resonating with the love story in a certain way. So I believe that, there was a lot of criticism attached to certain films that have done humongous box office that have been called misogynistic. And I don't want to enter that debate because there are many things to say, about it. But I believe when I'm talking not about that film or any other film, I'm talking in general that the change has to lie in the things that I said about the raising of boys.
Yeah.
The way you
and the
raise,
change has to be
I think
around
the change
us
has to
before
be
it
around.
can be in the movies.
I think that the change has to be at the very nascent stage when you raise your son. Is if you raise your son like he's your son, and a boy and a man who has to be in a certain way, therein you make the biggest mistake. If you raise your daughter like you raise a human being, you raise a son like you raise a human being. Do not raise them as your version of a gender-specific nature. Raise them as people with a strong moral fabric, and do not slot. For heaven's sake, do not slot. Do not slot your children, because when you slot them, you will blot them.
So one thing Karan Johar would like to change about himself.
I would like to, I'm about 80% honest, and I still lie for 20. My aspiration is to be 100% honest.
What's the last lie you told?
What's the last lie I told? That my flight's at 2. It's actually at 3.
Then we can keep you out here. I'm not letting you go. You walked into that one. So I get 2 more minutes.
You can get 2 more
Okay,
minutes.
thank you. Really, what when you look back at the Karan Johar of 15 years ago, 10 years ago, what's the biggest change you see in yourself?
I think that I was a totally different human being. I really, when I look back at who I was when I made my first film and to who I am just now, I think I was a totally different human being. I was so much more a people pleaser. I wanted to win that Miss Congeniality contest around me. I wanted to be the most popular kid in class. I wanted to please others so that they would acknowledge me, and that was my sense of validation. Today, I don't get my sense of validation from others. I get it from myself.
Well done. But I read a very funny thing you said. And you said that basically, because you said you're 80% honest and 20% of the times you lie. And you kind of indicated that the 20% of the times you lie is when someone in your industry asks you how you like their film.
I lie all the time.
You lie all the time?
Those are the 20%. I do not tell people the honest truth because no one wants to listen to it. I mean, the moment you say, can I be honest with you and be honest, that's where you lost that person for life. So it's better to, people don't like, see the thing is, invariably you're called to film screenings, Barkha, a day before the film is releasing. Now I feel there's no point in telling the person that you made a really bad film a day before the film's releasing, because there's nothing that person can do and you also can't do anything about it. So you might as well say, Mr. Great, lovely, you were amazing, how amazing, blah, 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 and then walk out. I mean, so every time I tweet, I lie, every time I Insta post, I mean it.
You know, we have Facebook as our sponsor here, so you've made them very happy.
What?
You lie on Twitter and you tell the truth on Instagram.
I do lie on Twitter because Twitter, see, those are few characters you can get away with a lie and not cringe at yourself. But what happened on Instagram when I write those big kathas, I really mean it. Because that's why I've taken time to construct those and I really mean it. So that's my thing. If you want to catch me, that's where you can catch me.
So who is Karan the person as opposed to Karan the persona?
Those lines are blurred. But at times when I'm sitting here right now, I'm feeling I'm being more natural and I'm being more myself. And I forget, but there are times when I go to certain kind of, events where I feel I have to play the filmmaker card. I do that. As I said, I can swing both ways about personality. I meant like personality.
Now, am I supposed to follow up on that?
No. You're supposed to just politely say good night to me or goodbye to me or say toodles to me while I catch my flight. No, so what I was saying is that there are times that you are more real and there are times that you have to put up that filmmaker facade, and I've done that. And I can, as I said, I'm Gemini, I can play both roles with equal aplomb.
So I want to end with where you started. You said that one of the things men need to change is not do this token service to feminism, to women's empowerment. Do you see yourself as a feminist, and what does that word mean to you?
It means just understanding humanity and not sectionalizing it. Just understanding that, that there are men and women and we have different approaches to the same situation, but that doesn't make us different at all. We just have different ways of dealing with situations. It's like there could be debates till kingdom come. You can debate about the sensitivity of a woman to the absolute unintelligence of a man. And you can go on saying these things, dissing one for the other. You can go on and on saying, but that's because you're always treating them separately.
And all those generalizations.
I don't think the universe or the good Lord intended for them to be two different forces. They expected them to be one solid force and create a strong humanity. Therein lies the problem. We treat them very differently. Don't do that.
One thing you've done in your movies that you'll never do again, apart from item numbers.
As I said, the one thing I would do is actually have characters that all the things, like, the lady here spoke about fat shaming, being ageist, being sexist. These are things that I will try my hardest best not to have in my cinema.
So I want to say to you that Karan has been a friend of the festival. He's been coming here to this state since 2017. And I have actually seen the willingness to take criticism, to have an open conversation, to step back and say, maybe I did this and it was wrong. And I think that's really what this festival is about, to start a dialogue. Karan, we love you. Thank you. And even though you lied, I'm going to let you go and catch your flight. Let's give it up for Karan Johar. A big round of applause. And I want another round of applause for him because really he's one of the allies of this festival. So huge, huge, huge round of applause.